Herbs, above all things, must have sunshine. And then next to them?
Compost bins.
Right, that definitely is a mistake.
Right.
You do not want compost bins right outside the back door. I would have the compost next to the chickens.
Next to chickens, yeah.
And then the chicken muck will go on the compost heap.
Perfect.
The heat in a compost heap is almost entirely generated by digestion. Bacteria digesting the compost. So therefore, you don't need to create, they are creating it. They do need oxygen, they do need moisture, it mustn't be too dry.
Okay, yeah.
And you can either cover it to keep the moisture in or to stop it getting too wet. I mean, if a greenhouse would improve the garden, then make it fit. Build the garden around the greenhouse, not the other way.
That sounds brilliant, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So greenhouse, obviously, one tip, it's a real temptation with a greenhouse to use it as a hothouse.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not a hothouse. Open it up as every possible opportunity. I mean, the door's shut now, it should be open.
Okay.
Right, okay.
Grow everything so it's got just enough protection.
Right.
And then that way, the fluctuations of temperature won't affect it so much. You know, everything will grow stronger and better. Get it open and get the ventilation open and get the plants sort of toughened up. I always say this to people, and they never really believe me, but it is so important. Do not expose the roots at all. Okay?
Right.
So you take one out when you need it and cover it back over.
Can I ask you why?
The feeding roots are these very, very fine roots, okay? I mean, some of these you can't see. So the finer the root, the more important it is for feeding.
Right.
If they dry out, they can die. To realise is what we're doing is not clearing, we're pruning.
Yes.
So actually, it'll regrow with renewed vigour.
Right.
So if you want to get rid of it, you've got to take the roots out.
Right, okay.
It's a false economy not to fill seed trays up with compost.
Not to?
Yes.
Okay.
Because the more compost you have in there, the longer the root run can be.
Right, okay.
And the healthier they'll grow. What I do is I fill right to the brim, then just wipe the excess off.
Okay.
You notice how they're growing?
Yes.
They're all leaning to the light, which means they're not getting enough light.
Okay.
So if you can put them somewhere they get a little bit more light, or turn them
Yeah.
at least once a day,
Okay, fine.
they won't be craning their necks.
Yes.
Your Rebecca, completely healthy, nice little plant, and if we take that out and have a look, nice root system there. That's ready to either pot on or plant out.
Right, okay.
Ideally, in a pot, you just have whatever that is, a centimetre of fresh compost for it to grow into.
Okay.
Don't be tempted to get the biggest pot you've got and think, there you are, that will grow enormous. It won't do it any good at all. It's a complete waste of compost. These precious roses could go into shock with the stress of being transplanted. So we must do what we can to minimise this. And the first step is pruning. The basic rule is if you've got any weak growth, prune it very hard. Now you can see here, we've got branches that are crossing and rubbing. So if I cut that back hard, like that, if you've got any strong growth, prune it very little. Like that, and probably like that, and that's it. Because we're going to dig these up,
Yes.
I'm going to prune them a little bit harder.
Right.
I'm going to take it down by half. Cutting down the top growth lessens the strain on the roots which are being moved, and it helps to dig them up with as much of the roots as possible. The quickest way to kill alpines is keeping them in wet conditions. So a mix of 50% compost with 50% grit will give them the drainage they need. So that what you've got is a mixture like that. So if we are putting, say we want to plant in there, push in a little bit, and it's difficult because we can just watch that in, and there'll be enough nutrition and enough drainage in there that when we push the roots in, they'll have something to stick onto. You know, if we push that in like that, I would expect that to live and grow.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it's got to, you've got to get it well in, because if it falls out or whatever, but there's no reason why that wouldn't work.
Yeah. The easy mistake to make for an amateur gardener like me is to put too much in. And
Actually, the exact opposite is true.
Really?
The biggest mistake for the amateur gardener is to put too few in.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Cram.
There we go.
Yeah, always cram.
Oh, okay.
Put too many plants in and then take them out.
Okay.
Time for a quick swing to make sure that they don't damage their very expensive fern.
It's not too bad, is it?
No, it's nice.
No, it looks nice there.
I think it looks better there. What makes Dicksonia antarctica and tree ferns in general so unique is the fact that their roots are here, where my hands are.
On the
They're
outside?
on the outside of the trunk. And these are bone dry.
Yeah,
You've
they
been
are.
watering the soil.
Yeah.
Which means you haven't been watering it at all.
Oh dear.
Now, what I've been dying to do for the last half hour is give this poor thing a drink. It needs it terribly. This is how you water a tree fern.
Oh, it starts to come out the sides.
Okay?
Oh, that's like being in a rainforest.
Yeah. And this is, you see, how the rain filters down, which not a lot of it reaches the ground.
No.
But the plant has taken it up and used it before it does.
Thank you.
Right. Well, that's a new home for that. That's easy.
Joan admitted to Monty that she bought these online. This was definitely not one of her best buys.
So look at that thing. Really woody. You should always be able to take the plant out of the pot and inspect the roots. And if you can't, or they won't let you, don't buy it. Those roots are never going to grow out in a good fashion. And what we can do, and it wouldn't hurt to, is just take that off. You see, look, that's where it wants to be. It wants to be out like that. And we're going to plant it a little bit deeper, which will lose you some height, but roots will grow from the culms. If you want to create a landscape rather than a rock garden,
Yes.
then you've got to think, how do landscapes work? Where are the tallest trees? Tallest trees will be lower down.
Yes.
The thing to understand about bog is simply ground that never dries up.
Yes.
There's no more or less to it than that.
Right.
And so what you see is you've got is fundamentally holding water, but not nearly good enough for a pond. If it was
Yeah,
a
oh,
pond,
yes.
it would leak.
Yes.
But because it's going to be full of soil, the soil will act like a sponge. We want wet soil, not a puddle.
Yes.
By cutting back to there, it'll reshoot,
Okay.
because you're letting light into this base. When you cut a branch like that, you always undercut it like that, and then cut slightly away from the trunk so that it doesn't tear.
What is this on the ground? It's all over the place.
Do you like it?
Yes, it's nice, but it seems very invasive. I'm thinking of taking it on the other side, but I'm not.
No, don't take it anywhere.
No?
It's ground elder.
Okay.
One of the most invasive weeds you can have in a garden. I get more letters on how to get rid of this plant
Really?
than almost anything else. To get rid of it, you'd have to dig it all out. And because you've got trees and shrubs,
Yes.
the roots will be entwined in the roots
Yeah.
of those, and you won't get rid of it. I would suggest keeping it and growing into it. If that's like that,
Yeah.
that will grow fine, and then we'll put more soil over the top of it.
Okay.
Wild strawberries will grow in quite a lot of shade.
Will they?
Yeah. No, I use them underneath hedges. And they grow and they spread and they're delicious, these little jewel-like fruits. So if we put that one in there, in that gap, is that going to fit okay for you?
I think it will.
There we are. Apples need best drainage.
Right.
Pears need good drainage and can cope with a little bit less sun. Quince prefer it to be slightly moist. So I would always plant my quince at the bottom of the slope, not the top. At different times of day, you can get different scents, because there are some plants that take up heat during the day. That heats up the oils, and as it cools, the fragrance is released. One of my favourite and most evocative scents for me are tobacco plants. And immediately I go back to my childhood. They do best in full sun.
Okay.
We could plant them over near the seat.
And Monty has spotted a whole group of climbers which are perfect for a fragrant spot.
This is clearly a honeysuckle. Do you choose it for the flowers?
And the smell? Yes, lovely.
So that's perfect. So that will grow in some shade and in some sun. They're really good plants, and you can grow them up trees, you can grow them on trellises, you can grow them against a wall. You know, they're very, very variable.